Hello, everybody. This is Sean and Joy and a special guest here today on our episode of SOC Talks. We do hope that you love hearing from us. Well, if you don't, just turn us off. But if
No, don't
you
do that.
Just stare at the beauty.
yeah, stare at it. Yeah, but share it, pass it on. There's somebody that's going to enjoy the conversations that we do have. We would really appreciate that. So this week, super excited. We have our guest, April Brum. She's in our send out card world, shall we say. And she is like one of the most super inspiring Southern girls that we have, and she's very, very in tune with the nonprofits and the church sector and nonprofits. And we wanted to talk with her a little bit and pick her brain a little and how she brings this all to light, using our system. So April, hi.
Thank you so much for
Hi,
having
April.
me, Joy and Sean.
Welcome.
I love you guys, and I'm so glad that this send out cards world that we're in has allowed me to create friendships across the miles, and it's just so nice that I've actually been able to meet the two of you at different things and events and stuff like that. I love it, how it's expanded my horizons. It's increased the love and positivity in my life immensely. So well, I appreciate y'all having me, and I appreciate that what's going on in our world right now is certainly not anything any of us saw coming, but our nonprofits, whether it's a civic nonprofit, community, our church, missionaries all over the world, some of which are very cut off right now from being able to thank their donors and keep in touch with their supporters. What we teach with send out cards is making sure that we share kindness and making sure that we strengthen those relationships. Well, it's very, very challenging. As an example, someone who is a nonprofit worker that lives in a country that is really sort of closed off from the rest of the world. A lot of these places where they live do not have card stores. They don't have a neat way to send a quick card to one of their donors or supporters and say thank you. So what we do is we teach gratitude. It's not something that you would think that you needed to teach, but it is so powerful to say thank you. And it is so powerful to let people know when they are supporting you financially, whether it's the Humane Society. We have some wonderful community groups in our area for domestic abuse shelters, things like that you really don't even think about are actually on the rise for their needs right now. Everybody has seen the different reports. There's millions and millions of people out of work right now. A lot of those people out of work were monthly donors to a lot of these places. So a lot of these places that were depending upon, that is their salary, so to speak, that's how they feed their benefactors, is through monthly support. So a lot of those people are not able to give right now because they're out of work. So what our nonprofits are noticing, and I just want to share with you a couple of examples. So this is a picture of a child, and then it's just got an overlay on it with this is the Jamaican flag, and it says #Reaching Jamaica Together. And it is a very simple thank you note from an orphanage in Jamaica, in Martha Brae, Jamaica, and it's called Noah's Ark Children's Home. And it just basically says, thank you for introducing us to this amazing service. God uses many different avenues to bring people together. You are a radiant light for Him. We appreciate your support. So when you're able to put this in someone's mailbox that supports you, there's a lot of people right now that are looking at their budgets, figuring out what to cut. If you run a nonprofit, you must get in front of people and be top of mind. If you don't, that will be one of the things that gets cut. And it sort of sounds harsh, really, to say you must be in front of people, or else the silent things sort of get pushed off to the side. Like, well, maybe they're not even there anymore. Maybe they don't need our money anymore if you don't keep in touch with these people. And so another great example, and these are called story cards. And so if nothing else, nonprofits can learn something really cool called story cards. So you've heard in marketing, every marketing expert I've heard at least once or twice says, facts tell, stories sell, right?
Yep.
If you can show someone, this is what your donation did, that is a food box that they were able to give to a child named Carmela in the central Mexico, and Carmela now has food, and the card basically is showing what they did in the village that weekend and how this person's donation changed these people's lives. So when you have given $40, $50, whatever, to an organization, and then a week later you get a card in the mail with this is tangible.
Right.
This is something that you get to put in your house, and then your neighbor comes over for coffee, and the neighbor says, what is that? And you go, oh, let me show you this village in Mexico. Look what they're doing. And then the neighbor says, well, that's amazing. How do I get in on that? And then there it is on the back. You can simply show them the back of the card. Your nonprofit is on the back of the card. And sometimes you can put a QR code, and by the time coffee is over, you've got a new donor. And so that is what is happening, y'all. This is so powerful. It takes next to nothing to do this quickly from your phone. Even the people in the little villages in the middle of nowhere have Wi-Fi, believe it or not. They might not have water, but they got Wi-Fi. And it sounds terrible to say that, but I'm serious. All over the world, somehow they figured out Wi-Fi. And so you can send someone a card like this, y'all, and within minutes, your donor feels appreciated. They get to see this child that is now eating because you bothered to send some money that way.
Right.
And so this particular organization, y'all, during the pandemic, has increased by 5 new donors that have never donated before.
Nice, nice. April, that's like awesome. This is gonna be so good. Let me ask you a question though. When you're going to a nonprofit and you're presenting this to them and you're showing them, how do you overcome that barrier of the cost to them to do this? I mean, I know you have to show them, have to show them like the value versus the cost, but that is still a spot with nonprofits.
So that's a great question, Joy. This particular nonprofit, at the time that I sent her a card and told her I was praying for her, I did not approach her necessarily to send out cards at the time. I was literally sending her a card, letting her know that I was praying for her. Now, in her particular situation, it took 2 months for the card to get there. So it just depends on that. And sometimes you need to do this electronically. But she was looking for a way to keep in touch with her donors and supporters.
Okay.
So that is one way. And the cost will be, what is the cost to lose a donor? That is, they need to feel what it will cost to lose donors so that they can overcome the cost of this. So our card a day plan is a great place for nonprofits to start. The other thing possibly that nonprofits can do is ask for a donor to sponsor them for 1 month and see how this goes, because sometimes even just within 1 month, you can send out 30 cards on that card a day plan, and those 30 cards, not asking for donors, but keeping in touch with the people that are your partners.
Right.
Lots of people get a newsletter, an email newsletter from a nonprofit that are not current donors. When someone responds to that newsletter and says, hey, you're in our thoughts and prayers, send a card to that person who said, hey, you're in our thoughts and prayers. Sometimes that can turn that person into a donor.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great point, because if, like you said, if someone's donating $50 a month and they go away, that's $600 a year. And yes, perfect, great example. So how are you, like the lady you sent a card to, and you just, I'm praying for you. Did you know her, or how did you get in contact, or how are you finding these nonprofits to help them?
I did. So in my network, in my community network, I work with a lot of missionaries in particular. That's my heart. My husband, as soon as he graduated high school, one of his first duty stations in the military was in Spain. Someone in Spain on base invited him to a military church out there that was run by some military missionaries, and that's where he was introduced to Jesus, and he became a Christian over there. And so I'm deeply indebted to missionaries that they left their home to go to Spain, and had to go that far to introduce my husband to Jesus. And I live this amazing life now, and I'm deeply indebted to some of these missionaries that really dedicate their lives to introducing Jesus to other people. So in the same sense, I think if you just sort of, it's just like a lot of people are in BNI. It's just like when you are listening, be a good listener. And when you're listening to people's hearts, most people have a nonprofit that is near and dear to them.
Okay.
Whether it's the domestic abuse shelter, it could be the Humane Society. Somebody has a nonprofit that's near and dear to them, because we all have that charitable component that we want to give. People want to do good. So if you listen, you'll hear somebody's heart.
Okay.
And you can introduce this to them and simply say, hey, I use a service that helps increase the depth of relationships, and maybe it could help increase your donor base. Would you want to take a look? And sometimes they'll be willing to take a look and just say, if nothing else, try it for a month and see how it works for you.
Okay. That's cool.
Great point. Great point.
Yeah, great point.
Yeah, because losing a donor is much more costly.
Oh, I'm sure.
Than people can imagine. And happy donors share the joy with their friends.
Absolutely. Which becomes more donors.
Yeah. Smart donors. There you go.
Yeah. And I did one thing that folks might come across. I have had to help some of my send out cards customers that do run nonprofits. I've had to help them with the verbiage of some of the donors are saying, oh gosh, how are you sending out these expensive looking cards? And they're worried that they're using their donations for these expensive looking cards. That gives them the opportunity to say, these cards are very cost effective. And if you choose, you can become an affiliate. And some of my nonprofit customers are affiliates that actually are sending out free cards, because they are now helping other nonprofits use send out cards and earning a commission through our affiliate program. And it's a beautiful circle.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Perfect.
I don't know what else to add. This is like awesome.
No, that was
great.
Perfect.
This is great knowledge. I mean, I think that, I know I'm sitting here as you're talking thinking, okay, I already know I'm going to be sending this video to so-and-so, so-and-so, because, it is. And I think it's with anything, even with any businesses right now, you get wrapped up on the cost versus the value,
Yes.
So, and I liked what you just said about trying to figure out, the conversation that we're having here about, okay, what does it cost to lose that $50 a month from this person?
Sure, absolutely. And I think when you can really get to the heart of the nonprofit, most nonprofits, we have another one in our neighborhood. It's called the Raise Me Up Foundation. And they help supply very, very quickly needed supplies when a child is taken out of a home. Sometimes that happens very quickly.
Right.
And it's a state kind of thing. Well, most of our federal funds are, otherwise occupied right now trying to get the world back open. And so when a child is removed from a home, sometimes it's in the middle of the night. Sometimes they need supplies really quickly. And when someone who is part of that network can step in and say, I've got a twin bed, I've got some clothes, I've got this, and you can help that child get resettled in a safe environment all of a sudden, then the Raise Me Up Foundation will go and send a box of brownies and a card and say, thank you so much for stepping in, and we really appreciate it. Obviously, in a situation like that, you can't do a story card where you can put the kid's face on it because it's very dangerous. So I think if nonprofits can make sure and overly thank their people, people will realize what a need is out there, and then they can share that with their friends, because that's what you do when something good happens in your life, and when you get that little dopamine shot and it just feels wonderful, you share that with people. I mean, down here in Georgia, we've got these tomatoes that if you cut them, you can do one slice of a tomato and it fills up the whole slice of bread. That is a good tomato sandwich. Now I'm going to go tell somebody where I got that tomato that made my mouth water. I mean, you're going to share good news with people. And so
April,
that's what you really want to do.
I think that's the first time a tomato sandwich has ever been compared with the feeling you get from sending a card, but that's okay.
That's because you haven't ever had a tomato from Georgia, Sean.
Yes.
I don't know. My mouth is like watering. My tomatoes, I'm like struggling, and they're like this big around. You know, like, come on, baby, come on, baby.
Oh, we got them big as softballs down here.
Oh, that's too funny. Oh my gosh.
Well, that'll be our tagline today. What's tomato sandwiches has to do with send out cards? So.
Hey, yeah, you could put that out there and see how many people would answer it.
Little trivia question. Whoever wins gets lost.
Yeah.
Whoever wins gets some brownies.
Yes.
Oh, y'all are funny.
We'll have to wait and post. We'll have to put that out before we post this for anybody to listen to.
Learn about tomato sandwiches with April.
Yeah.
How else can you possibly make somebody as happy as the tomato sandwich?
I don't know.
Hey, that might be our line on this, Sean. We'll
yeah.
That's
right.
Oh,
and how to help nonprofits too. Okay.
Only if you use, listen though, you can't make a tomato sandwich without Duke's mayonnaise. I don't care what kind of mayonnaise you use. You got to use Duke's mayonnaise.
Duke's mayonnaise.
Yeah, I grew up on.
Y'all not have Duke's in your area?
I don't know if we do.
Oh.
Now, Sean might come across it being south, but definitely not north.
Yep.
That's true.
Okay.
Florida's not south though.
I'll have to look for that today.
Yeah.
See, April, we told you these conversations go anywhere. Yeah. Very serious on help to nonprofits to tomato sandwiches and Duke's mayonnaise. So it's perfect. Yeah. And on that note.
Yeah, on that note. Yeah. Anything else you can share with us, April? Yeah, I mean, it's just been awesome. And I know you work very closely with your church and the church. Do do they send the cards out to their congregation? I mean, how do they?
Absolutely. My church is actually on the unlimited plan, and they have a system package.
Okay.
During the initial months of the pandemic, when it was mid-March, April timeframe, our elementary school leaders of some of the elementary programs in our church, they would design word searches, and they would use the system package and insert the child's name, because children love mail. Everybody does, but children especially. And they would put the little character from their program at church on the front. And on the inside, it would say, if you fill out this word search, and when we get back together, of course, at the time, we thought it was going to be a little quicker than July, but if you bring this back in, you'll get $1 at the store. You know, they have a little like fun shop where there's like pieces of candy and stuff like that, you know. And so the kids could bring this card back in with their completed word search, and they were able to import the CSV file from all of the elementary kids.
Right.
Design this word search with one click. They were able to send out 60 to 65 word searches to these kids, and they all got a word search that week. And it just made their whole day.
Absolutely.
You know? So when you can keep in touch It's just huge. A great testimony for my friend that lives in Mexico. She kept in touch with a nurse friend of hers that she had not really talked to in 20 years, but reconnected. Kept in touch with her nurse friend who is a COVID, on the COVID ward, this nurse. And the nurse wrote her on Facebook Messenger and said, "You are the only person that has bothered to keep in touch with me at all during this time. My church has not kept in touch with me. I've lost touch with a lot of my friends because, she said, nobody really wants to have anything to do with me, it feels like." She said, "I'm shifting all of my donations to your ministry."
Very nice.
Nice.
I mean, people will go where they're loved.
Yep, absolutely.
Exactly.
And that's where they send their money. Look at somebody's paycheck. Look at somebody's checkbook, and I'll tell you what's important to them. Follow the money.
Very nice.
Yeah, very good.
So
I think that's a perfect
it's actually
sentiment.
biblical.
Yeah, well, that's
wherever
all right.
wherever your treasure is, that's where your heart is.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, there you go. And we will wrap it up with that. That
Yeah.
is awesome. Well, hey, April, thank you so much for joining us here today. And Sean, always a pleasure chatting back and forth with you.
Absolutely. Thank you, April.
Yeah,
I love
thank you
y'all.
all
I'm so happy
very
I got to
much.
come
And
to a
have
party.
a great day, and everybody.
We'll have you on again.
Yeah,
We'll just
share
have an
this
episode
awesome
of tomato
tool.
sandwiches and Dukes, and maybe you can do a demonstration on the perfect way to make one.
Oh, I could totally do that. A big old glass of sweet tea.
So you'll have to send a package to both Joy and I so we can enjoy it at the same time.
We'll do that.
Perfect.
Oh, my
Cooking
God.
with Joy and Sean and April. We've got a new show.
Yeah. Well, hey, again, April,
All right.
thank you, and everybody. Hey, hopefully you take this. Any nonprofits you have out there,
Maybe share it
I
one
would
day.
be definitely sending this link to them and have them listen to the wise words of April here, who's right in the middle of it. It's not like she's telling you what to do; she's experiencing what is being done. So, thank you, everybody. See you next week,
Thank you.
and be safe.
Have a great week.
And have a
Bye.
good,
Thanks for
bye-bye.
having me.
Thanks, April.